Crawford, MP, as well as our two joint patrons, our co-patrons for Reconciliation Queensland, Dame Quinton Bryce and Dr. Jackie Huggins. But before we get started, let's have Maurice Serico, one of our former co-chairs and also a current board member with us here at Reconciliation Queensland, give us the official acknowledgement of our First Nations people of Queensland.
Wanya and good afternoon. My name is Maurice Serico. I'm a Gubbi man from the Sunshine Coast. I also have connections to the Taroom area through the Yemen people there. Today I will be acknowledging the First Nations people of Queensland as part of this series of web seminars. Now, while just as you are watching, there are hundreds, perhaps thousands of people throughout Queensland, all with different cultures, all with different backgrounds, on different lands, even on the waters, who are joining in today. Those people I welcome sincerely. With all you people, we will be able to work towards reconciliation into the future. Not only do I welcome all the members of the Queensland community to this, I would like to acknowledge the First Nations people of Queensland, for whom reconciliation is an important piece of unfinished business. I would also like to show our respect for the elders of those First Nations peoples. From times past and times coming, we show our continued respect for them. I would also, unfortunately, like to share our condolences for any sorry business that's occurring throughout the state with our First Nations people. With those thoughts in mind, we now commence our series of web seminars, and I would like to introduce to you our MC for the series, Uncle Bill.
Thank you, Maurice. This week is an important week in Queensland, and we will have webinars happening each day as well to deal with the 5 dimensions of reconciliation. Now, for many of you out there, you may not be aware that there are in fact 5 clear dimensions of reconciliation that we need to look at here in Australia. And importantly, this week we'll have the opportunity through the webinar series that we're putting on for you to unpack and to better understand what those dimensions are. So stay tuned each day. So particularly on Thursday, the 28th, we'll have the first in our webinar series to deal with race relations. On the 29th, we'll then look at the dimension of equality and equity. Next week, on the 1st, Monday the 1st, we'll be looking at institutional integrity. And this is where we begin to look at, particularly for RAP organisations, the importance of actually being able to build the capacity of your organisations to deal with reconciliation matters and to better understand them. Importantly, last year we dealt with truth as a theme for Reconciliation Queensland. And the 4th in our series of webinars deals with historical acceptance and the need for us to actually have that conversation of truth. There are many truths, and we hope to have a look at these during that webinar. And finally, unity is the last of the dimensions that we need to look at as part of reconciliation and within this framework of reconciliation. But please now join us as we move into the official launch for this year's Reconciliation Week here in Queensland. And I'm going to ask Mr. Peter Jackson, one of our long-serving co-chairs at Reconciliation Queensland, to basically give you an idea of what reconciliation is and a bit of a history on Reconciliation Week. So Peter, it's over to you.
So what is reconciliation? The word reconciliation can be quite contentious for some people. It means different things to different people. Australia has a long history of reconciliation, and countless people, Aboriginal, Torres Strait Islander and non-Indigenous, have dedicated their life's work to the reconciliation movement. As a result, many significant steps have been taken. The Council of Aboriginal Reconciliation, or CAR as it's known, held its first meeting in Canberra in February 1992, and in June that same year the High Court handed down the Mabo decision, recognising the special relationship that Aboriginal peoples and Torres Strait Islander peoples have with the land and the sea. The court ruled that Australia was never terra nullius. In 1996, the Council of Aboriginal Reconciliation launched Australia's first National Reconciliation Week. Over the following weeks, many other locations, including Brisbane with up to 80,000 walkers, conducted large, well-attended bridge walks, showing national support for the reconciliation process. My own family walked across the bridges in Brisbane. This same year, Reconciliation Australia was established as an independent, not-for-profit organisation. In the 28 years since the Council of Aboriginal Reconciliation, or CAR as we know it, was established, the concept of reconciliation has taken a holistic approach that encompasses rights as well as so-called symbolic and practical actions. Over this time, reconciliation has introduced a greater focus on the relationship between Aboriginal peoples and Torres Strait Islander peoples and non-Indigenous Australians, and opened up a national debate on prejudice, discrimination and racism. It has raised broader questions about our national identity and the place of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander histories, cultures and rights in our national story. Reconciliation can no longer be seen as a single issue or agenda, and the contemporary definition of reconciliation must weave all of these threads together. To develop a framework to measure Australia's progress towards reconciliation across these many dimensions, Reconciliation Australia undertook a review of reconciliation in Australia and internationally. As a result of this work, 5 critical dimensions that together represent a holistic and comprehensive picture of reconciliation were identified. What is Reconciliation Queensland's role in the reconciliation process? Reconciliation Queensland is now focused on contributing to advancing the 5 dimensions of reconciliation, which are race relations, equality and equity, institutional integrity, unity, and historical acceptance by supporting many organisations throughout the state to develop respectful relationships and create meaningful opportunities with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. Reconciliation Queensland is the state's peak reconciliation body, a founding member of the Australian Reconciliation Network, and dedicated to progressing reconciliation for all Queenslanders. Reconciliation helps by coordinating and supporting activities, events and capacity building projects throughout Queensland, providing strategic advice and support to all sectors regarding key reconciliation priorities, actively encouraging and supporting the growing network of Queensland-based organisations progressing reconciliation through their commitment to Reconciliation Action Plans, or RAPs as we know them, and closing the gap priorities and initiatives for governments. We continue to work with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander groups, communities and individuals to see constitutional and legislative reform based on the recommendations of the Uluru Statement from the Heart. Today, 20 years on from the massive reconciliation bridge walks held throughout Australia, National Reconciliation Week is also a celebration of the commitment that increasing numbers of Australians of all ages and backgrounds are now making towards having a more equitable, just and informed society, which recognises a shared past and respects Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples as the first Australians. We are very fortunate in Reconciliation Queensland that we have a very committed committee. Committee members come from all over Queensland, and we meet regularly to make decisions on behalf of reconciliation in this state. We're also very fortunate in Queensland that we've been able to establish reconciliation groups throughout the state. Those groups are well managed, they have committees, well-placed organisations, and they also are doing great work in their own communities, and we fully support that. So we're all in this together. So if you wish to join these groups, you can come onto our website, that's Reconciliation Queensland's website, and put your hand up, and we'll direct you in the appropriate way to these groups, and you can participate. So thank you all, and enjoy National Reconciliation Week.
Thank you, Peter. We'll now hear from Aunty Heather Castledine, the Aboriginal co-chair here at Reconciliation Queensland, and her personal message about Reconciliation Week this year. Aunty Heather.
My name's Aunty Heather Castledine. I'm a Kamilaroi Cooma woman from far southwestern Queensland. I'm also the Aboriginal Chair for Reconciliation Queensland. I've been doing that job for a number of years now and working together with the Reconciliation Group across Queensland, promoting reconciliation and the coming together. I live in a very diverse community in Logan City, working sometimes with the multicultural ethnic leaders there and coming together as a group. Reconciliation, I see, is everybody's business. It doesn't matter who you are or what culture you come from or where you are going in life. It's about coming together, understanding the First Nations people, not only the Aboriginal people but also the Torres Strait Islander people, because they are the people of this land and they do make up this land and what it is and what it stands for. As you've known, with the droughts that have affected us, fires and floods, as well as the COVID virus as well, it makes us come together as a group and it makes us work harder. We're now working in a different environment of technology, which even I myself have struggled with on a daily basis. But we need to learn who we are and what that means to us. For most people in Australia, they have more than one culture. They come from a culturally diverse background, Australia. And I think reconciliation stands for that. It means learning to understand other people from other cultures across the world, but also Australia. Because Australia itself is not just made up of the coastal region, it's made up of the arid areas and the desert areas of Australia, as well as the freezing south around Tasmania and that. And we are a diverse country, not only in the geometry of Australia, but also the people as well. We are a lucky country and it's rich in diversity, but it's rich in culture. But understanding people, understanding the boundaries that affect society itself is very important. And I think reconciliation does that. It crosses those divides to make us one culture, to be proud of who we are. Not saying giving up your own culture and your own cultural backgrounds, but coming together to understand not only the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people of this land, but also your own culture and the people that live next door to you as well. On a daily basis, Australia is a multicultural country. It also has a very multicultural Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures as well, because we are not one culture or one society or cultural group. We are very diverse from where we come from or who we are. Like myself, I have not only English, I also have Maori, but the biggest part of me is my Aboriginal culture. And to walk through that and to understand that of who we are and where we come from, and coming together to walk together as a nation and as a society in today's times. And I think the future, we have a great future, and with reconciliation is a way of doing that. And each year when we have Reconciliation Week, it is amazing to see what we hear and learn on a daily basis and on a weekly basis of that. And I think it's important that we understand that. And with Reconciliation Queensland, we have ways of doing that. We have our speakers group that comes together talking about different subjects on each month. And We also have the reconciliation reading groups across Queensland as well as we hold our walks each year, which bring people together. I know it's only a small group, but we're growing to make it bigger. And this year being 2020 is a very important year for us because we think about what happened all those years ago for the future, coming together as a group, coming together as a society and welcoming people, because Aboriginal people welcome people from all cultures and all societies into their families on a daily basis, and our children and our grandchildren and great-grandchildren are part of that. So it means that for an Aboriginal family, it means we are multicultural from the time we are born to when we pass on, but it's part of who we are, and we need to reconcile ourselves with that. And I think we are in a way, but to the future. So happy Reconciliation Week.
Thank you, Auntie Heather. We'll now hear from the Minister for Fire and Emergency Services and the Minister recently appointed to the portfolio of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Partnerships, the Honourable Craig Crawford, the member for Barron in North Queensland. The Minister is going to share with us the Queensland Government's message of support for reconciliation this week.
As many of you will now be aware, on Tuesday the 12th of May this year I was sworn in by the Governor as Queensland's Minister for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Partnerships under the Palaszczuk Labor Government. Something I'm very proud and humbled by, as Queensland is home to two of the oldest living cultures on the planet, and I acknowledge and pay my respects to the traditional owners and custodians throughout Queensland, elders past, present and emerging. Under the Palaszczuk Government, we've seen a lot of work done to advance the aspirations and priorities of Queensland's Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. And a lot of work has been done to reframe the relationship between Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Queenslanders and the Queensland Government. This includes, for example, recognising the importance of self-determination and the protection of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander culture in Queensland's Human Rights Act, providing reparations for unpaid wages and beginning our journey on the path to treaty and truth-telling. These initiatives provide us as Queenslanders collectively with an opportunity to reconcile historical wrongs and to begin healing together, to set the foundation for a thriving and positive future based on respectful relationships free from discrimination and inequity, and to move to a future where all Queenslanders celebrate our ancient and privileged cultural diversity, where Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders no longer experience disadvantage at a level that requires a need to close the gap. While reconciliation is something we should be promoting every day, National Reconciliation Week gives us a dedicated week where we're able to reflect on what a respectful relationship looks like. It gives us an opportunity to celebrate important achievements. The momentous 1967 referendum in which 90% of Australians voted in support of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples being included in the national census. The historic Mabo High Court decision, which provided a seat at the negotiating table for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples about activities on their lands and territories, and the advocacy that was undertaken by the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander leaders and non-Indigenous Australians to promote a reconciled nation. The 2020 theme for National Reconciliation Week is In This Together. And of course, we're hearing this a lot amidst the response to COVID-19, a response which has unfortunately meant that some of the community activities that would usually be taking place during Reconciliation Week have had to be postponed or done differently in line with social distancing. But I encourage you to think about how you might promote reconciliation in your communities, in your workplaces and in your homes. During these unprecedented times when it's important to check in with neighbours, maybe take an opportunity to get to know your Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander neighbours, or check up on Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islanders and elders who live in your street. This time gives us an opportunity to do these things. Go online, learn about the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander history of your local community and have conversations with your children about that history, or share those stories on social media. Finally, as we kick off National Reconciliation Week, I want to acknowledge the important work that Reconciliation Australia has done and Reconciliation Queensland to promote the reconciliation process across the state and across this great nation. As this year's theme acknowledges, reconciliation is everybody's business. We are all in this together.
Thank you, Minister Craig Crawford. The leadership of the Queensland Government in years to come is going to be critical to how we progress reconciliation here in Queensland. But ladies and gentlemen, it's now time to officially launch National Reconciliation Week 2020 here for Queensland. Dame Quinton Bryce and Dr. Jackie Huggins, Reconciliation Queensland's co-patrons, will now give their personal and heartfelt messages as they officially launch the week for us.
Good afternoon, my friends. I want you to know how proud and delighted I am to be sharing this occasion with you to launch Reconciliation Week with my co-patron, Jackie Huggins, a friend for whom I have enormous admiration and respect for her leadership, her hard work, her selflessness, her courage and her determination. It's really an honour to be a co-patron of this distinguished organisation that's so important in our community for all Australians right across our country. Reconciliation Week is a time for us to come together. That's really the heart of the word reconciliation. And I want to begin my few words by paying my respect to the traditional keepers of this beautiful land on the bend of the river here at QUT. And I always like to acknowledge wise Indigenous women who've taught me across my life what it means to be an elder, about country, language and culture. I always remember my very dear friend, so important and influential in my life, Connie Bush, whom I met at Groote Island, and I spent many happy times there with her. She came to stay with my family often too as our kids were growing up. It's a friendship that is precious, that I treasure, because it opened up to me a new world and understanding of our Indigenous people. Connie told me for the very first time the story of the stolen generation, and that's remained in my heart ever since. I think that this is a time for us to be asking ourselves again, what can I do towards reconciliation in our country? I must say for me this year, my commitment, the most significant work that I want to contribute to this year in Australia is asking my fellow Australians to read the Uluru Statement, from the heart. This is a vitally important year for all of us. It's time. It's time for the Uluru Statement to be listened to be read, to be put into practice. It's time for us to get on with the work that needs to be done towards a treaty. Get on that pathway. And that starts with truth-telling. I think so many Australians long to see true reconciliation. And I want to conclude as I hand over to my co-patron, Jackie Huggins, as I launch this week with her. I value very much the opportunity to pay a tribute to Jackie Huggins.
Hello, my name is Jackie Huggins and I'm the co-patron of Reconciliation Queensland. Prior to this, I was on the Council for Aboriginal Reconciliation in the 90s, and I'm the former co-chair of Reconciliation Australia. I'd like to pay my deep respects to the traditional owners, to elders, past, present and future, and to all the First Nations peoples and your traditional owners of the lands of which you are viewing this live stream today for National Reconciliation Week. It's great to be with you in this, the 2020 National Reconciliation Week. The theme of this year is In This Together, and how appropriate is that title for us now in terms of what's happening in our country with the COVID virus. Nowhere is it more alarming than what our people are seeing and doing and fighting for in their communities. I'm so proud that we have escaped the very brutal deaths that we see in other countries. I'm so glad that our people, First Nations peoples, are also protecting each other and doing a great job there. Also, I want to add my thanks to Reconciliation Queensland, which does fantastic work and always very supportive and always trying to progress the reconciliation that we so badly need in our country. Reconciliation is not a soft issue. In fact, it is very complex and difficult sometimes to achieve. But nevertheless, we still keep pressing on and hoping that in our country there will be the social justice for our people that we have wanted all our lives to see. It's very important also that we carry on aspects of the agenda, the national agenda, such as the voice and treaty in our country. We can't let these things go because they too are part of the wider reconciliation process. In terms of the treaty, we handed our report in on the 3rd of February to the Queensland Government. That is the eminent panel and the treaty working group. Over 1,000 people came and talked to us, both Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples, around the aspect of truth-telling, of being able to build their capacity to educate other people in the community about what a treaty could bring for our country. We've been talking about this for so long, and yet we're right at the tipping end. And we would hope that the government, this government and the future government, any government here in Queensland, would follow our recommendations through. It's really important. And no time in our history have we needed a voice, a national voice that will speak to the many issues that still befall us. So reconciliation this week, all in this together, the theme is very appropriate because we're all in this together for the virus, for ourselves, for humanity. And I would hope to see a lot more kindness, humanity and compassion around us all as Indigenous and non-Indigenous people. Here in this country, but especially here in Queensland, we have to learn our history. We have to know our past to move forward. and that is certainly one of the pivotal foundations of reconciliation. And finally, I would like to thank my co-patron, Dame Quentin Bryce, for her support and the work that we do together for this country and for this state in terms of reconciliation. So together we launch National Reconciliation Week for Queensland. Thank you.
So there you have it. It's official. National Reconciliation Week has been officially launched here in Queensland. It doesn't just stop there. Apart from reconciliation, Queensland having webinars running most days during the week, there are many other groups and organisations across Queensland who are actually putting online events and webinars and other things on. So please check out our website at Reconciliation Queensland for the calendar of events that are happening close to you in your town or city. But ladies and gentlemen, now it's time for me to say farewell, and importantly to remind you, we're all in this together, and I look forward to catching you up on our successful journey to reconciliation.